Everybody, it's Andrew Brown from the AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp as we continue on with week 6/week 7. I think that our DynamoDB is not working in production. And I think that's something that we should debug. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our application here and just make sure that it's in a running state. I haven't been saying this, but if you ever want to not run the application, it's very simple to do so. And I think I should show you now. I'll probably cover that in a separate spending video because I should really make that very clear how we can reduce that spend. But I'm going to go over and go to our AWS account, which is over here. I was just trying to find it. And so whenever you don't want to be running this stuff, what you can do is you can update the service and just change the desired tasks to 0. And if you update that, then it says the desired task to run is 0, and then if you stop them, they will not start any other ones. So if you go into tasks and you were to manually stop them, that's how you're going to reduce your spend there. Again, I'll probably make a separate video for that. Let's go investigate and make sure our DynamoDB is working. So I'm going to go here on the into I want to go to EC2. I don't know. I keep going over here. It would be nice to just have the load balancer. Why am I going to the load balancer? I don't need the load balancer. We have it on a domain, right? So that's the whole point of having a domain, right? So I'll pull up Firefox, even though I don't like to use Firefox as much anymore. But we'll go over to crowder.com. And I'm going to go ahead and, well, I am signed in already, but I'm not seeing any information. So I don't trust it. I think my token is expired. So I'm going to sign it back in here and just make sure that everything is in good shape. Capital T, testing 1, 2, 3, exclamation mark, because that's probably what our issue is. And we're not seeing any data. Well, that's not good. I thought we fixed that issue already. And so I'm going to go to my network tab here. I'm going to reload. That reload button's really nice. And so we have a 4567. This is, don't tell me it's cores, because we fixed cores. NS error DOM bad URI. That's what it's saying. Now, did we mess up our variables at some point, and that's the reason why? But I'm pretty sure we had it working. Oh, look at this. It's going to the wrong place. So definitely I did something wrong when pushing, when we were refactoring that code out. So let's go take a look at what we made a mistake as. It's probably in our production here when we were updating the environment variables. We might have reverted them. If we go into the backend Flask app here, at least I might have. This is where we define our nvars. And these look fine, right? Let's go to our front end. Well, it was when we build it over here. So in our build script, I'll just bump this up a bit. I know it's really small. I apologize. If we go into our build script, wherever that was. Oh yeah, we moved bin up here, which is nice. Docker, build, React. It's probably hard-coded to have the wrong values. Yeah, it is. And so this is supposed to be, that's what happened, right? So we'll go here and we'll just say API crudder.com, and we'll put a / on there. And that will resolve that issue there. So now we can go ahead and just rebuild that. So down below here, I'm going to do a bin, Docker, build, front-end React, prod. Okay, that's going to build that. I guess the other question, does it know I'm logged in? Yeah, I must have logged in from our previous session, so I think that's still okay. Not sure what all this stuff is. Is it building? Yeah, it's downloading something, so it must be working. So this is obviously a very easy fix. We're just going to build it. We're going to push it. We're going to tell it to restart. It might be nice to string these together so we don't have to like write them out every single time, but we'll worry about that in a second, okay? Because we might want to re-register our task definitions if there were any changes. I don't know, like if you had a task definition, you didn't change it, if you did register, would it register a new version? I don't know. Or like, would it be smart enough to say, hey, there's nothing changed. Don't push the version. So I'll just wait for this to build and I'll be back, okay? All right, so that's built. And so what I'm gonna do here is now go ahead and push that. So we'll go bin, bin, Docker, push front end here. I almost kind of like want to make a script to make our scripts easier to use, but we'll get there at some point. Okay. So I'm just trying to think here. Okay, so we've pushed that, so that's good. And so now we want to restart it. So we'll go bin. Run. Whoops. Bin. ECS. Why is it not finishing there? So I'm trying to do bin, ECS, force deploy front end. I thought we had a force deploy backend on there though, no? What happened to that one? Well, they're both there, but whatever, that's fine. And so that's going to roll out, and so we'll just have to wait a little while. I keep thinking, like, is there an easier way for us to work for our bin scripts? Because it's becoming quite a little bit painful to use. It would be nice if we just be like, CRUD backend push. You know, I wish I could do stuff like that. I'm not sure if we could do that. We'd be basically writing a CLI tool, which for me is not particularly difficult to do, especially if we wrote it in something like Ruby or Python. Yeah, we'll leave that for now, and we'll just work through the struggle. But for now, we'll be okay. Okay, so we are just waiting. We are just waiting for that stuff to propagate. So we'll go back over here, give a refresh. You can see that it's spinning up another one. And so I'll be back here when that's done, okay? All right, let's take a look here if this works. So I'm gonna give this a nice refresh here. And well, that one is active. It still says it's in progress from the last deploy. Let's just make sure this isn't failing multiple times. It's frustrating when it does that. And we'll just wait here a moment. And so we have one completed, it looks fine, one running. It doesn't say like a bunch of failures, so I guess we're in good shape here. The target is healthy, so that is good as well. Let's go back to service. Maybe it's done now, so we'll go back and refresh. Last deploy still in progress. What is it waiting for? Maybe the ALB is still working there. So if we go over to our ALB target group, sorry. Here, right? It still says it's draining, so we are waiting for it to deregister the old one and spin up the new one. It basically is doing deployment. And I wonder if this is using the ECS deployment controller, because we haven't talked about this, but the ECS deployment controller is how ECS handles different deployments to use for services. So like when we are doing that, it's actually basically making sure the old one is good before it swaps out the new one, which is kind of interesting. So the deployment controller is used for the service. The deployment controller type, there are 3 types: ECS, code deploy, external. And so I think every time we do a deploy, it's doing ECS. This ECS controller deployment, because it has a CloudFormation template, tears the old one down, spins another one up. And so I think this is already happening here. When we start to implement the CI/CD pipeline, I can't remember if we ended up using code deploy or if we stick with the internal one, or like the ECS one, but I guess I'll tell you when we get to that. I just can't remember. I've done both implementations and also for ECS EC2, so I'm not 100% sure. But what we'll do is go back to our target group here, give it a refresh. I just want to see that other one is gone. It is taking forever to deregister. I suppose we can just try and see if it works. I just hope it doesn't hit the old one, because then it's just like a red herring here. And so we go here, and I'm not seeing an error. So that could be good. Home. You need to enable JavaScript to run this app. What the heck are you talking about? What's it talking about? Is it not going to the back end? Is it going to the... Let's go look at our build. Did I make another mistake? Oh boy. This is what we talk about when we say like misconfiguration by developers is what I'm doing right here. Okay, so let's go look at our Docker file. We're going to pull up our build. We're going to take a look here and just make sure it says apicreditor.com, but we don't have in front of it the HTTP. So I'm pretty sure we're supposed to do this as well. Yeah, I think we're supposed to do that as well. So I'm pretty sure I missed a step. So I guess we'll go do that all again. Great. Sorry. So let's take a look at the scripts we got to run. Bin, Docker, build, front-end React JS app there. I guess I'll do this again. I'll see you back here in a moment, okay? All right, so that finished there. So what we need to do now is to do a push. So we'll do push front-end React here. And then what we'll do is do ECS. ECS force deployment front end. So yeah, again, I'm not a huge fan of the way these are organized, because now that we're having a lot of scripts, it kind of feels like I want to be service specific, but I don't know. I guess we could move them around. I'm just trying to think here, like what would I do differently? So the DB stuff is fine. The database stuff is fine. Docker, I don't know. We have ECR, which is okay. And I mean, this stuff really is actually doing ECR stuff, but then we have an ECR folder down here. And really the only time we need to log in is when we're pushing, but we could have it as isolate. But anyway, that one's going to push out. And so now that we've pushed, what we want to do here is, well, that's a force deploy. So we're gonna have to wait a little while for that to take place. And maybe we can think of a better way of working with this, because this is getting kind of frustrating for me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a new folder here. I'm gonna call one backend, and then I'm gonna have another one called front end. And I'm just gonna move these folders around so they make a little bit more sense for me, at least the way I think that they should make sense. And so ECR login's fine. So I think I'll leave that one alone. The RDS is fine. We'll leave that one alone. But it's all this Docker stuff that's kind of driving me crazy here. Well, that's Docker. That's actually the Docker folder. It's not what we're doing here. So maybe here what we'd have is these are builds. So I'm going to take this one into here, move, and then this front end one will be here, move, and I'm just going to rename this to build. And then this front end one here will be build. You know, it makes sense to do this stuff when you are finding these things to be kind of a pain or difficult to use. Then we have our push. So I'm going to take our back end and put it here. And I'm going to take our front end and put it here. Yep. And then this one's going to be called push. And then this one's going to be called push. And then we have the ECS one. So there are the connects, and then there are the other stuff here. So these ones they always take a task ID. So I'm going to go here and take this connect and put in the back end. and take this one and put in the front end. They have the names in here, so it's not too hard to know where they're supposed to go. Take that one and put that down here. So I'm going to rename this to deploy. I'm going to rename this one to connect. I'll rename this one as connect. I'll rename this one to deploy. Okay, and so this will make things, I think, a lot easier to work with here. So now we saw the ECR directory. We don't need our ECS directory here. We'll just delete this out here, delete this permanently. We don't need our Docker directory, this complex one here, so we'll delete that out as well. Okay, and so now we have our build and stuff like that. This only contains limited scripts here. So we have Cognito, that's all there is. ECR for Flask, that's all there is. For RDS, that's all there is. And so we could take those and like put them, like have them top level and make this a little bit more organized. But for the time being, I'm just not going to overdo it here. So this stuff needs to get updated because no longer do these paths point to the right place. So we have the absolute path. If we go up a directory, then we are in the bin path. So we don't need these anymore. Well, hold on here. We probably still need, this would get us here. Yeah, so we're in the back end, then we get bin. So from here we get bin. Great, and so that's a lot more simplified. No problem here. No problem here. No problem there. So really it's just the build that we need to update here. And so we'll just get rid of these intermediate steps. Okay, and so I'm hoping that that kind of makes it a little bit easier for us to do this stuff. And a lot of times we might want to run a bunch of these. So we have like build, connect, deploy, push, build, connect, deploy, push. We'll worry about that later, I suppose, when we have to do it next time, I guess. We'll just see how it is working with this. So restructure bash scripts again. And we'll go back over here and see if this is finished deploying. So we'll refresh that. Looks like it's still in progress. We'll go over to our target group, refresh that. Looks like it's still draining one. So we still don't know the status of that stuff. Again, it'd be nice to know the status of these things. Like what are the common things that we're always looking at in the console? We always want to know how many tasks are running, what their current state is, and knowing like the target group and what their current state is. So we could try to print out more information to make it so we don't have to keep making round trips over to the console, which is quite tiresome, to be honest. So I'm not sure if we should do that right now, because we just seem to be always waiting for this stuff. Nothing's draining here, so that's good. We'll refresh here and see how this is doing. Still draining. So I'm going to just make the attempt here and see if it'll actually just go and use the correct one here. So I'm just going to get Discord out of the way here. We're not using that anymore. And we'll refresh this and see what it does. And so now it's going to the right location. So yeah, all this to just get to direct messaging, which is what we've been trying to focus on in this video. So we'll go over to our messages tab and we will take a look here and see what the problem is. So right now this is blank. I'm just gonna make sure this homepage works. This is fine. So we don't see anything here. We go to inspect. We are not getting any useful information out here. I'll go to the network tab, we'll reload, and this isn't returning a 500 error, so I think we're okay. The issue here is that like we need to message somebody, but we didn't implement other user profiles so much. So right now we rely on doing this through the new, Bako. And so here, this is supposed to be populating correct, but we are getting an error, right? So here we are getting back what? Nothing. And the question is, why are we getting back nothing? I don't know. It's possible that these records just don't exist in the database because we did seed our data. That's probably what it is, because we seeded some local users and those users don't exist. So they would actually have to sign up to exist. And so I think that's what we need to do is actually just seed a little bit of data in here, but we don't want to permanently, we don't want to make a script and do that every single time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and connect to the remote database here. So we'll say bin bin here, and in there we are going to want want to connect to the database, right? So bin db connect. Oh, it's because we want to go to prod, sorry. And so we're connecting to the production database. We'll say select all from users, and we'll see what we have there. And so I'm just going to turn on X on so I can see what I'm doing. If we go up, there's only one record. So that's our issue, is that we don't have those other users. And so that's what we're going to need to do, is to go get those other users, or I mean to populate just a couple, so we have something to work with, even if they don't actually exist. So what I'm going to do is go into, where's my seed data here? It's in my bin directory. No, it's not. It's in backend Flask db seed.sql. And so what we need to do is just insert Baco manually. So I'll just copy this. I'll paste this in. We'll get the values here. We'll paste this in. We'll go ahead and grab this line here. We'll paste that in. And we'll put a semicolon. And so that will insert Baco. And so maybe this will actually return data. This is old. Obviously, that doesn't do that anymore. And we'll give this a nice refresh here. And we'll see what we get back. So now, if I go here, does it match anything? Still doesn't, right? Let's look at the headers. Message groups. Response, no data being returned. So sorry, let's take this tab off here. I'm just trying to see the full address here that is being sent out. Okay, so, oh, that's not the right one. Sorry. Let me refresh here. Let's just make sure we're getting it. So what I'm looking for is that short request. Oh, it's up here. Cached. You need to enable JavaScript. What? No, we don't need to disable JavaScript. It's going to the wrong place again, isn't it? Because that's if it was going somewhere else. https://crutter.com messages new Baco. Why doesn't it say API in the front? Did I mess it up again? Seriously, am I that clueless that I can't seem to make any of this stuff right? Of course, it is a bit harder when you're recording videos and doing this stuff at the same time. I imagine when I'm not recording, everything is flawless. At least maybe that's how I perceive it in my head. But anyway, what we'll do is, I guess, go again, check what we did for those environment variable configurations and check the front end one here. We'll go to the build here. It says API. It says API. So I'm not crazy. This is what is set. So maybe what's happening is it's still returning the old one. Did the old one drain yet? The old one's gone. Okay, let's refresh. Also, it's caching these endpoints. Maybe there's a way we can turn off caching. Disable cache. Let's do that. Not that it should cache those endpoints. And so here it's still going crutter.com HTTPS. Why is it doing that? That's frustrating. Because these other ones are going to API, but only this one is going to here, crutter.com. Well, I guess that one makes sense because this is serving up the JavaScript page. So sorry, that is correct. I'm just not used to looking at it here. It's the short that I'm looking for here. 500 internal error. Okay, great. Now we're getting somewhere. So this is, and I'm going to make this bigger. I'm sorry. I didn't realize this was so small this entire time. But this one is showing a 500 error for the short. So we can't see what the database is doing. We could log into it and maybe check the logs locally. But what we should do is use Rollbar, because that was the whole reason why we're using Rollbar. So let's take a look and let's hope that our Rollbar credits aren't used up. When you have a website, you'll get like junk error tracking there that you're not expecting to have, and that can eat up all your free tier, and then you have to spend a lot of time to make sure that doesn't happen. So I'm just going to go ahead and log into my Rollbar account, which we haven't been doing at all as of late. Andrew at cloudprojectbootcamp.com. And we'll log in here. And so we have an error. This happened 1 minute ago. I can verify it, I guess, at some point. I thought I already did verify it, but that's okay. And so this is how we check for problems, right? So there's a bunch of superficial ones here. Is it logging both production and development? This looks like this is all production from 8 hours ago. I don't believe this is all production. Some of this might be development. But we'll go into here. Maybe it is production. I don't know. We'll go into here and it says the view function for data user short did not return a valid response. The function either returned none or ended with a return statement. Okay. So that's going to kind of help us indicate where the problem is. So this is where we're going to go look in our code and try to figure out what went wrong. So in our backend Flask app, we have our services. And on the left-hand side here, we have that short here. And so that has to go query out, and then it's going to return the results. The question is, can we see our queries? Because if we can't see our queries, we don't know what it's hitting it with. Something that might be interesting is, like, does RDS show us any queryable information? It'd be nice to see our latest queries ran. So if we were using something like Datadog, it'd make this stuff really clear. We would know exactly what was going on, but we're not using any kind of logging service. So we don't have that kind of visibility. If Datadog had a free tier and it doesn't, I'd be using it. I guess we could use New Relic. So I'll decide whether we want to do that or not. But we do have performance insights, and it's supposed to work for some of stuff, but I don't see it here. Let's drop down Crutter. I haven't seen this in a while. I remember when it first came out, you had to have a particular size and you couldn't access it. So maybe we'll actually see some information here. So top SQL, I don't care about top. I just want to see anything. So we go down here. Does it not show me stuff? Last 1 hour? Last 5 hours? Show me anything. Anything. Okay, so RDS Performance Insights shows no queries. I thought it should show queries here, no? I don't know. I thought I'd just come here and I'd start to see queries, but apparently not. Application, anything. Show me anything. Nope, nothing. Great. How awesome is that? Okay, so what we'll do is go back over to Rollbar. So the view function for data user short did not return a valid response. So whatever came back, it did not like. What it returned, I do not know. So I'm just going through here. Now, our SQL stuff, I don't know if that would print out in development. I guess it probably, or production, it probably would, if I'm thinking about it. And we did hook up in our app a way to send stuff to CloudWatch logs. I don't know if it would send everything there. So like we have this where it's like after each request, it could send stuff, but I wouldn't see all of the logs. Were we talking about setting up a CloudWatch agent and shipping them all over there? Let's just take a look here, what we have access to. That's where logs really come in handy. Let's go to our log groups here. No, we created this one for a cluster. This one is for ECS. These don't help. These don't help at all. Okay, so I'm just trying to think here what we can do. Like if it's Rails, there's like a very standard way it outputs it and you can analyze it. It makes it super easy. Flask is not my primary framework, so I just have to kind of think about what we'll do here. Well, at least we know that there's something wrong with this code here in the short. So all I'm thinking is that probably what happened is that it's returning no data. Let's go back to our service here. So user short, query the object based on its handle. And all I can think of is that we passed the wrong handle. So like if we go back to our application here, what is it passing as the handle? This one is misleading. We'll refresh this. We'll go to messages. We will take a look at the short. Where is it? I don't see it here. We'll refresh again. Oh, right, because we have to, I keep forgetting we have to do this. New, like with Baco here. And so I'm going to look at what's being passed. That's fine, internal server error. It's passing @Baco short. So what happens if we grab this on the API plainly here? We get an internal server error. What if I just take out the @? Not found. So it does expect it to be like that. So all I can think of is that it doesn't think the data is there and it's returning nothing. Great, but we can't see what it's doing. We don't have the right level of observability. Okay, so what we can do is we are logged into here, so maybe we should just make sure that that record exists. Because we did insert it, but we actually didn't select it to see if it's there. And so we actually have Andrew Brown twice. That's our problem. I've inserted myself twice. Baco's not even in there, so that makes sense why that wouldn't work. But I guess the question is, if it didn't find it, why did it return a 500 error as opposed to something like a 404 or something else? So that might be poor error handling on our part, like in terms of how our application works. Because if it didn't come back with something, it should handle that case, right? And what it's supposed to actually do is return an empty object. Because in our SQL, what it does is it always returns that. But I think the issue here is the fact that query object JSON will return a none when there's no value. And that's not very useful for us. So in our database script, because I always thought I was returning a string of JSON, but it actually translates it over to a dictionary in Python, which is not how it does it in Ruby when you're using the driver. And that's where my confusion came from. So in here, if we don't get anything back, oh, it's supposed to do that already. So it says if JSON is equal to none, then return that. Otherwise, return this. So maybe this is something that we should test. But what I'm going to do is, obviously this record shouldn't exist. So I'm going to say delete from users where UUID equals this. Okay. And probably I need to wrap this as a string. I can't remember if it's single or doubles. We'll find out here in a second. It'll probably complain. There we go. So that record's deleted. That's totally fine. But we clearly have a problem with our application. So what I'm going to do is just type exit here. And we need to start up our local developer environment, which apparently is already running, which would be great. But it might not be running the way we want it to run because it might be still using that weird flag. So I'm going to do Docker compose down. And we'll just hit space there. I'm going to do Docker compose up. I'm going to get the environment up and running here. I'll be back here in a second when it's working, okay? This thing really doesn't want to run. I'm just going to keep doing compose up until it works. Give me a second, okay? All right, so I think it's running now. And so I'm going to go here and open up 4567. This is totally fine. We want to replicate that error we were having. So API activities, or sorry, activities. New, or was it Baco new? Or was new Baco? Well, actually, we're trying to do Baco short, right? So that's what we were trying to do, like that. Is that what that endpoint was that we're trying to replicate? Let's go take a look at what it was. Oh, API users, right? API users, sorry. We'll do that. Not sure why that's hanging. It certainly is thinking hard. I mean, Postgres should be running, right? But I guess when we started this up, we actually didn't seed any data. So maybe that's our issue there. So what I'm going to do is go up here and just type in clear. And we will do bin a db. And we will do schema load. We just do setup, right? That does it all. It doesn't know what those directories are because we buggered those scripts up from earlier. So what I'm going to go do is go into our bin directory for DB and take a look at our setup. This is using RealLink, which has the bin path, and then it does that. So basically it's saying this bin DB DB. Because this would here, this is the absolute path, wouldn't that get back bin, not DB? Okay, well, this is what it's saying it's returning. So if that's what it wants, let's give it what it wants, okay? So we'll go ahead and here do that. And I'll just go down here and do DB path. And so that should resolve that issue there. Well, this would be here, right? So that would be that, and then that would be that. Hit up. No such a file directory for the schema, and in here it's workspace, AWS CRUD, bin, backend, workspace, AWS Bootcamp CRUD. So yeah, that makes sense that that doesn't work. Let's go take a look at the schema load now. So this also is using ReadLink. Let me just print out what this is. Maybe we messed up our pathing here. I see. So the thing is that when we first use that file, what it's doing is it's going to probably doing the file. So one actually gets us the absolute path of the file, and so we need one more intermediate path. So really, this is actually DB here. So this is probably DB path like this. And then we need to pass that there. So that's our mistake for this file. That'll probably resolve that issue. Table users don't exist, table, etc. That's all fine. The only part that did not work probably was the seed ran into an issue. So let's take a look at the seed now. Probably the same problem. So this is going to be the DB path. And this will be DB path here. And so that would probably resolve that issue. It's being used by other databases. Well, it shouldn't be because we aren't doing anything yet, but I guess we were trying to make API requests, so that could be the reason why. So that's fine. I'm just going to do compose up again, and then we will run the script again. That should jangle it loose, the those connections there. So I'll just wait here till it's back up, okay? All right, let's take a look here and see if we can unjank those. So I will go ahead and try this again. And so it shouldn't have connections. If it still has connections, that's going to be really annoying for us. Oh, for frick's sakes, now it has double the connections. All right, let's down it. Let's take it all down. Tear it all down. Hit escape. I mean, we might have still had that connection there, but let's just make sure we're not connected anywhere here. No, we're all tore down. Let's go Docker compose up. And it better work this time. We'll be back here in a second, I guess. All right, it's back up and running again. So do I have my hair sticking up back there? I do, whatever. And so let's see if we can now establish that connection or redo the setup again here. So there shouldn't be any connections. There are 8 other connections to the database. What the heck is it talking about? Okay, let's print out what the connection is here, because maybe I have the wrong connection. Nope, it's my local one. So that makes sense. Can I check my Docker Compose file? This is using my local one. So where the hell are these connections coming from? Like when the database is down, Postgres shouldn't be running. There should be no connection to any database. So I don't know what the heck it's talking about. Let's do compose down. It's like I'm crazy here. Escape. Let's connect. Yeah, there's nothing running as we expect it to. If I do bin backend Flask, or sorry, bin db setup, there's nothing for it to connect to. So what I'm going to do, just to rule it out, is I'm going to run each command individually. And if that still gives us a problem, I'm just going to restart this environment because I don't want to goof around all day trying to figure this out. For the time being, I am going to update these, so fix the pathing for these so that we don't have an issue here. Okay, and I'll wait for this to spin up again. If it doesn't work, we'll launch a new environment, okay? All right, let's see if I am still crazy here, and we will try to run these individually as opposed to running them all at the same time. So we'll do a drop, and it hangs. So I'm gonna restart this environment. I don't trust this environment anymore. That's the nice thing about Gitpod is that you can just tear this stuff down when it's not working the way you want it to work, whereas in local, you'd have to do a bunch of stuff. So we'll say goodbye to that, and I will launch a new Gitpod environment, and I'll see you back here in a moment. I'll get it running up, and we will try this again, okay? All right, so now that that's ran there, what we'll do is try this again. So we'll do bin bin db, or sorry, yeah, bin db setup. And it should set it all up, right? There we go. Though it is running into an error for the seed data again. So let's go take a look at that. That's driving me crazy that we're having so many problems here because I don't want this to run again. It throws those errors again. That'll frustrate the heck out of me. So this is on the seed file here. So this is in the DB directory, so that makes sense. That goes there, to the project, to the Flask, to here. So what's the problem? Line 23, schema path. Sorry. Seed path, that's our problem. Seed path, seed path. So that'll fix that issue. Hopefully this will just run. And it seems like at this point what happened was it failed and now there's sessions open. So I guess we'll just need a one here that says kill open sessions because this is driving me crazy. PSQL kill all connections. There's one that's like, you shouldn't use this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm just sick of this. So we'll go here and I will paste this in here. We'll say allow. Right. Schema load. I'll have to cut this out here. We'll have to put in our seed directory here. If that works, then I'll be happy. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is just test this to make sure this works first. So bin connect, db connect. We'll connect there. I'm just going to copy this in and paste this in here like that. Great. Can I drop now? Awesome. So now that I have this kill all connections, I'm just going to have like kill all, because I'm getting tired of having to deal with that. So we're basically doing something very similar here. I'm going to copy the schema load. We'll put it into the kill all. paste this in here. And this will just be the kill path. We'll say kill all connections, kill path. Kill path. We'll go up here. We had some nice printing. So db kill all. And I'll just chmod that. U plus X. It's not that we should have like open connections like that, but for whatever reason, we're having that issue. And so I'm just not going to goof around. We don't really want to be using that on production. So here, what I'm going to do is just modify this and take out the prod, since we should never be using prod on that. At least we shouldn't have to, but I'll do that. And then we'll just do bin, make sure that it works, db, kill all. What's its issue? We're gonna have to do that. Database CRUD does not exist. What do you mean it doesn't exist? Oh, because we dropped the database, right? So that's fine. But anyway, we'll keep that around, and this will be like our kill all connections script. Great. Okay, bin db setup. We'll run that again, and no such file or path. So it's still having problems with the seeding here. We'll go here, we'll take a look here. It's just gonna be whatever the echo is. So here it's echoing out this, it says seed path, it's just seed here. So we'll go that. Let's see if we can run this again. Very close. Now we have an issue with our schema file. So I'll go here. Maybe I introduced a mistake. We put a comment in there. There we go. We'll hit up again. It's working with the exception of that last script, because that last one is, I believe, a Python script. And so I think we can just fix that by putting in Python as the command. Before I said I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that, but now I've used it somewhere else, and so I have more confidence to do that. So we'll go take a look at our setup script here, which is in our bin directory, and we'll look for setup. And so down below here, this is actually Python, so we'll just say Python. And I think that will work then. No module named lib to be imported. So that could be an issue with how we do the imports. I know we've done this somewhere else before, where we ran Python here in one of our scripts. I just don't remember for what. So let me just take a look here if we can find that. Here, I know we've done it somewhere. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure we just put Python for it to know. I mean, we could also try Python 3 just to rule that out, that issue, but I really don't think that we should have to do that. So I'm just going to go back to our DB setup here. What if I put Python 3? No. So I think it has an issue. It doesn't know where our stuff is. And it probably, again, is our pathing, all the stuff that we moved around. So if we go down into here, into not RDS, but Cognito. Where are you, Cognito? It's running this, right? Cognito, oh, sorry, this is in our database, so it's actually right here. So it's saying here it doesn't understand where our pathing is. So maybe what we can do is just print out some of these paths and we'll have a better idea of what's going on. Okay, so we'll hit up. And so this one is printing out this and this one's printing out that. So it's pretty close. The problem here is the fact that we're not in the backend Flask. So maybe we can do backend Flask now like this. And see if we get the right path. And we do. So that's all better now. Great. And so now our setup works correctly. So setup should work correctly. All right. We need to execute the other side of it, the GDB stuff. So we just do that stuff manually. So we say bin ddb schema load, and then we'll just seed the data. Another issue here is with the lib, so let's go fix that as well. Similar problem, probably. Maybe not. This is the, DDB. We want this one here. Okay, we'll go to the top here. Yeah, it's having a problem loading that. So our solution was simple. It was just to put in here, backend Flask. Great. We'll hit up, run that again. Now it seeds, no problem. Okay, so we are in better shape. So now what? Right, we're doing all of this in order to hit that single endpoint. So we'll go back to our ports. We'll open 4567. We'd have to fix out all that stuff anyway, so. And here we're doing API, or sorry, users. It's API, users, Bako, new. Did we do that endpoint correctly is my question. So what was it supposed to be? Oh, short. So we'll go ahead and do that. We get an error. Terminating connection due to administration command, server closed. This probably means the server abruptly terminated. That's not what we're looking for. So we'll go API activities home and see if we get that. So now we're getting this kind of weird error. It could be because we killed all those connections. I'm not 100% sure. Actually, here it's erroring out maybe on Cognito. No token provided. Oh, geez. It's just endless, these problems, eh? So let's go to the front end here. I'm going to sign in. We're going to say andrew@exampro.co, capital T, testing, exclamation 1, 2, 3, sign in. And we're not getting any data. I'll go ahead and inspect here. We'll go to our network tab. We'll give this a reload here. What's our issue? Oh, it's showing up now. Okay, whatever, as long as it's kind of working. So we're gonna go and try to make a new message with Bako. So this will be API or activities. Bako. Is it new Bako? Like that? No, it's not. It's okay. So, oh, messages, Bako or new Bako. We'll go here. I really want to put in the profile page, so we have to stop trying to remember what to type in there. And so here the short is returning the valid stuff. So let's go put someone that doesn't exist in here. Okay, and so what we should be getting back is an error on the short, which is totally fine. We'll go take a look at the logging data. Any day now. Okay, so we'll go into the backend. We'll view the logs. And so in here, did not return a valid response. And that makes sense because of our DB issue there. So if we go into our services directory, wherever that is, and we go into the short, the problem is the data that it's returning is not what we expect it to be. So I'm going to go into our lib directory, into our DB directory, and in here we have our problem with the object JSON. So I assumed here that this would come back and it would return none. It's returning something, but apparently it's not none because it's trying to do that, right? So I guess what we'll do is we'll do some prints here and see if we can find out what's going on. So I'll do this, and we'll just do a couple of these, and we'll put JSON here. And we'll see what we're getting back here. And then as well, you know what the problem is here? I already figured out what it is. Can you tell what it is? The return's missing. The return's missing. That's why it hasn't been working this entire time. Let's hit enter. So now we'll go back here, and short is now returning no response. So that is better. Of course, in our UI, it should really do something about that if you're trying to call something that's not there, but we're no longer getting that error. So we're getting somewhere, right? I think that fixes that issue. So what we can do now is push our stuff and see if that fixes that. So we'll go here and it should return empty JSON in the case there is nothing to return. Okay. So now the next thing we want to do here is thinking about this for a second here. The next thing we want to do here is we want to update this stuff. And so this was happening on the back end. So we'll go to the top here and we will work with our nice new scripts that we've been working on this entire time. So we will go into the, what directory are we going into? It's going to be bin. Type in clear, so we'll do bin. Backend. And we want to build it. And we want to push it. And then we want to deploy it. Where's our deploy? What happened to that? Maybe it's not executable yet. That's why it doesn't show up there. So I'm just going to do chmod here. U+x bin backend. Yeah, deploy. So it's probably just because it wasn't executable. So we'll do bin front end or backend build. Let me think. Do we need to build? So we changed the code. So we'd have to push an image. Yeah. So we will need to build to production. Workspace, AWS backend, CRUD bin not found. Okay, so we still have issues with our scripts here apparently. So let's go take a look at what the problem is now. Backend deploy. Or build, sorry, build. So as we understand it, when we do this, this actually is getting the full name. And so what we have to do is do backend path here. That's our problem. And actually we have to go up one here. It's this way. So we'll have backend path. And then this one will be here as such. And that's going to be similar for the front end as well. It's going to have that issue if we don't fix that. So we'll look for our front end. Oh, we should name it right. It's not going to break anything, but okay, let's try this again. Build. It should build now. Cool. So we'll just wait here. I'll be back in a second. All right, that built. So now we'll do our next step, which is the build push. So push that out. And now we will go and do our deploy. So they'll fix that. So that is deploying. And now we can go and do a connection to our database. Prod for this. And this time what we'll do is we'll make sure that we use the correct seed data and not just insert myself twice. So we'll go here and I'm just going to grab this here, insert like that, like that, like that. There we go. Missing a comma. So we'll try that again. Try to grab that first line there. I'll make this bigger. So we'll go here and paste that in. Grab the values, paste that in. Grab the second line, make sure we have both the parentheses, and then semicolon, enter. So now Baco is entered into the database. That other deploy is going to roll out, so that's going to take a little bit of time. We're going to go back here, and let's see if we can now make a new message with Baco. Oh, there we go. It's showing up. Why it's not selecting the first one, I don't know. Or maybe it is selecting, it's just not highlighting it. But let's see if we can make a message. Before we do, let's just make sure we don't have any errors here. So we'll go here and just double check. We'll pop that out if we can. Separate from the window. We'll expand that. We'll reload this page. 500s are all good. 401 is totally fine. Well, it says unauthorized. So right now we are dealing with that that issue that our token is expired. So let's log out. We'll sign back in. Say andrewexampro.co, capital T, testing 1, 2, 3, exclamation mark, sign in. So that is fine. We'll go there. And now what we'll do is we will go ahead and go back to messages. And we'll try this again. We will say messages, new, Baco. There we go. Again, it's not showing stuff there, so I think we have another error. So this time we have, do we have an error here? I'm not sure. This should be resolved because Baco exists now, and it's returning stuff. I don't trust this one. I think that was an old one, so we'll open up Inspector again. Go to our Network tab. All 200s down the board, so we are in good shape. Let's go. I don't know why that doesn't select in that case. Let's go testing 1, 2, 3. We'll send a message. Refreshes. It works. How nice is that? So that is all fixed. Our other deploy is rolling out so that if there's a case where we try to message someone that doesn't exist, that will resolve that issue. What we definitely need is to have a page for users. So like if I go here, I'm not sure if it actually goes. I have mine for my profile, but if I like go here, it's not even showing me that. I think we didn't hook up that endpoint. So we need to hook this up and put the profile in, which we really should do. The other thing is that stupid token expiry thing, which I kind of want to fix. But I'll have to decide what I want to do in the next video. But yeah, so there we go. We have DynamoDB working. More things are solved. Still, our API should be better protected. So even though like this information is publicly accessible, the like API activities homepage like this here, like if we go here like this is accessible to anybody right now. And you know, as a design choice, you might not want that, right? You might want to make it sure that the only way they can do that is through certain information. I mean, I guess the thing is like, at least the way the Twitter API used to work is that there was unauthenticated requests and it would bring back data. But this stuff isn't being throttled in any way. So like, I guess the thing is that you'd have to have like an API key or like that would allow you to not be throttled for trying to gain data like this. So there's some design considerations for that. This obviously cannot access authenticated endpoints, so it shouldn't work for that. But for this time being, we are okay, and I'll see you in the next one, okay? Ciao, ciao.